Let's talk a little bit about the Parsha Shemot. It is Parsha Shemot this week, I hope. I can't even know what day it is. I don't know what week it is. Anyway. Here.
But why do you say maybe it doesn't resonate with us? Nothing has changed that makes this inapplicable.
True. I mean, I just think, I don't know, I think that today we live in a much more luxurious world where we are used to greater levels of indulgence than in any generation before us.
But what does that have to do with the fact that we're going to die?
Yeah, but these are things that people, if you try to present, like a fire and brimstone kind of sermon doesn't go over well in the public. You know what I mean? In other words, there was a time when a preacher would say, you came from a fetid drop and you're going to go to the grave, and the message of the Gadluta Adam, the greatness of man, has a greater audience, I think, in today's world. That's just my impression. If you see it differently, it's okay. Okay. I just want to learn today with you a commentary of the Chizkuni, one of the Rishonim, regarding Moshe Rabbeinu's name and how he got his name. The Torah in Parsha Shemot tells us, "Vayigdal hayeled v'ativiyehu lebas Paro." After Bisya, Paro's daughter, saves him from the little basket that he was floating in, that his mother Tzipora put him into. So she adopts him. Vayihila levain. She's raising him now in the Egyptian palace. The irony of ironies, of course, that Paro's greatest enemy is growing up in his own palace. Vatikra shemo Moshe vatomer ki min hamayim mishisihu. And she gives him the name Moshe. And why is his name Moshe? Because from the water have I drawn him. To be Moshe is to draw someone from the water. Ki min hamayim mishisihu. I've drawn him from the water. So there are a couple of interesting points to make on this. A lot of the commentaries find great difficulty with this whole narrative, because does that mean that Pharaoh's daughter spoke Hebrew? I think what's going on? If this is, the Bible's being written in a Hebrew language, Semitic language, Egyptian is not even a Semitic language, it's a totally different language family, ancient Egyptian. How can it be that the word Moshe, which has Hebrew origin, could be the name given to him by the daughter of Paro? You know, that's an interesting question. Some commentaries say that she didn't call him Moshe, she called him the Egyptian equivalent of Moshe. Others say that by coincidence there are certain words that overlap in all languages, and this was one of those coincidences. But let's take a look and see what the Chizkuni says. Vatikra shemo Moshe. So he says like this: Kedivrei Rabotenu, shenitgayira v'hayita lomedet lashon hakodesh. The only way that she could have called him a name that has some Hebrew connection is that, like our sages say, she converted to Judaism. And therefore, part of the conversion, if you know anyone who's converted to Judaism, you know that one of the most difficult parts of converting is to learn Hebrew as part of the conversion. So she learned Lashon HaKodesh and Al Shem Hanes, and so she gave him a name based on her knowledge of Hebrew that represented the miracle Shenimshem min Hamayim, that he was drawn from the water. So that's how the Chizkuni answers the question. She was a Giores, and as a Giores, she knew Hebrew. It doesn't mean that as soon as she pulled him out of the water, she called him Moshe, but she converted to Judaism, I guess, realizing that there was a divine hand in her life, and as part of her religious training, she learned Hebrew. Now, why did she use Moshe to draw out? Lahazkir kimin ha'ivrim hu, to remind herself and perhaps to remind others that he was one of the Hebrews, that this was not just some sewer rat that had floated down the Nile into her house, but he's part of the Jewish people. Ulekach einon nizkar b'chol haTorah ela al shem zeh. And that's why, based on this whole story about him being saved by the daughter of Paro, who was a tzadekes and converted to Judaism, that's why Moshe is only known by this name. You know, in contrast, let's say, to other biblical personalities who have more than one name. Like Yosef was, in Egypt, was known as Tzofnas Paneach. And Yaakov has two names. He's got Yaakov and Yisrael. Moshe is only Moshe, given by the name given to him by Paro's daughter. So that's one explanation. Based on her greatness as a tzadekes, she knew Hebrew, and she gave him a name having to do with being drawn from the water because of the miracle of his, how he was able to grow to save the Jews. Davar acher. I'll tell you another opinion, says the Chizkuni. Bas Paro lo haisa yodas lashon hakodesh. The daughter of Paro did not know Hebrew, and there was no possible way she could have given him a name that is based on Hebrew etymology. Elakach pshuto shel mikra. But the way that you rather understand the pasuk is Vatikra Yocheved et Shemo Moshe. That when the Torah says Vatikra Shemo Moshe, it's not referring to the she that the pasuk starts with. That it says Vativiehu lebas Paro vayhila levein. That's the first part of the pasuk. She brought him to Paro's palace, and he was to her as a son, referring to her as the daughter of Paro. But then Vatikra Shemo Moshe, but she called his name Moshe, is referring to his wet nurse, who was none other than his mother, Yocheved. Yocheved called his name Moshe. Vatomer la bas Paro mahu lashon Moshe. And so Paro's daughter, who doesn't know Hebrew, according to the second opinion, says to her, what a strange name. What does Moshe mean? Vihigida hi la shuhu lashon hamshacha. And she told her, oh, it means to be drawn from water. Va'az amra bat paro yefeh kara'ato kein ki min hamayim mishiti. And so Paro's daughter said, what a great name. After all, I drew him from the water. Now, it could be that when Yocheved called him Moshe, she was basically saying that he was saved. He was plucked out of impending doom because I put him in the Nile, not knowing what was going to happen to him. And he was miraculously saved. And Bas Paro says, oh, gut gesagt. That's a great name because I myself drew him out of the water. So the way you named him has significance for me because I was involved in that drawing out. So we have now two explanations from the Chizkuni as to what it means, like how he got his name Moshe. One is that Paro's daughter, who's identified as Bitya, was the one who gave him his name, and it's because she knew Hebrew. And another explanation, he says it was Yocheved who called his name Moshe, and then explained to Yocheved what the Hebrew significance was in the word Moshe. Yes?
When it says Vativiehu, who is that talking about?
We don't know. I think if you look in the Psukim, it's referring to Yocheved, who was his wet nurse at the time. But I don't have the preceding Psukim before me, but it definitely says in the Psukim that he needed to be nursed. He needed someone to give him milk, and he refused to nurse from the Egyptian wet nurses, and they had to give him to nurse from the...
Okay, well, if the Vativiehu is Yocheved, then it makes sense.
Then it makes sense.
Verb could refer back to
right.
her, but if it's not Yocheved, then I don't see him.
Eileen, open up a Chumash, Perek Beis, behind you, if you don't mind.
I'm just saying, usually a later verb in a sentence doesn't two sentences ago.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay. Yeah, no, it makes sense because Vativiehu really is that she, referring to Yocheved, brought him to the daughter of... Thank you. So it says, Vatomer la bas Paro. This is referring to... What happened is that Miriam is standing behind the bulrushes, as you know from the story. And when Paro's daughter discovers the baby, so Miriam says, Ha'elech v'karasi lach isha menekes min ha'ivrios v'seinik lach es hayalid. Would you like me to get one of the Jewish wet nurses to nurse this baby? And Bas Paro says, go. And she goes, and she calls the mother of the child. Vatikra es Eim Hayoled. And so Bas Paro says to the Eim Hayeled, to the mother of the child, who we know is Yocheved, Heilichi et Hayeled hazeh v'henikihu li. Go and nurse this child, and I will pay you for your services. And the woman, referring to Yocheved, takes the child and nurses him. Vayigdal Hayeled. That's now we get to our pasuk. The child grows up. Vativi'ehu levat bar. After he's now presumably already past the age of where he needs to be nursed, she brings him to the daughter of Paro.
Thank you.
Good? We're good? So, yeah, that's what it is. Okay. What I want to ask is sort of very simple. In other words, but before I ask it, let's just go to the last two lines of the Chizkuni. Moshe. The Chizkuni says, let's understand what the meaning of Moshe means by first asking a question. Mashui ein ktivkan ela Moshe. Grammatically, if we wanted to reflect on what happens to this child, is that he is the object that was drawn from the water. So really his name should have been Mashui, not Moshe. Moshe means one who draws out from the water. But Mashui is one who is drawn from the water. Which one was baby Moshe? He would have been he who is drawn from the water, not he who draws from the water. So why was he called Moshe and not Mashui? That's the question that he's asking. Right? So what is his answer? Ela Moshe, Lomar, to teach us. Keshem shemishitihu, kein yihiyehu Moshe acherim. That just as I have drawn him, Bachi is saying, just as I have drawn him from the water, so may he draw out others. Perush yihiyeh Moshe Yisrael mi Mitzrayim. She's prophetically saying that this will be the one who takes the people out of Egypt, draws them out of the water, of the dangerous waters of Egypt. So this is just a simple point that I want to sort of bring our attention to. Moshe really is descriptive of what Moshe Rabbeinu is going to dedicate his life to. He's the redeemer of the Jewish people. And if we know that either Yocheved or Batya had Ruach HaKodesh to name him as such, why not call him the Moshiach, the Goel? Call him some words that we know are much more are more commonly found in relationship to redemption. Right? We have terms of redemption: the Motzi, the Matzil, the Moshiach. Right? All of these words are the words that we would normally find in context of redemption. The Goel. We never find that God is the Moshe of the Jewish people, or that Moshe is the Moshe of the Jewish people. Why is his name so dissimilar in its makeup from the terms that are used to describe the redemption of the Jewish people? That's the observation that I wanted to make, and to draw out perhaps a very subtle point. It has similarities to the word Moshiach, Moshe, in the first two letters, but a Moshiach, that's with an ayin, and this is with a hey. So they really are two different verbs. Moshiach is a savior, and Moshe is one who draws out. Also very, very not, I don't believe a coincidence, is the hey and the ches are many times interchangeable in Jewish grammar. So one who is a Moshe could also be a Mashiach, a Messiah, a messianic figure, one who redeems the people. So what's the difference between a Mashiach and a Moshe? Also, very subtle difference. But here's where I think there's something what I believe to be, because I love looking at Hebrew language and sort of picking it apart to get lessons. Where do we find this word Moshe, not in the context of drawing out, but in another context. The first time we find this word is in Parshas Toldos. What was Yaakov's fear that he expressed to his mother Rivka when she told him, pretend that you're Esav so that you'll go get the blessings from your father. Pretend that you're Esav because your father's blind. You'll tell him you're Esav and he'll give you the blessings that he intends to give to Esav. It's not that long ago, you know the story. So what was Yaakov's fear that he expresses to his mother Rivka? It's in source number 4.
He might touch me.
Yes.
Feel.
And how do you say to feel?
Yemusheni.
Yemusheni. Ulai yemusheni avi. Maybe my father will feel me. Now you might think, well, that's not the same shoresh. But yes, in a sense it is, because we have that pasuk in Tehillim. Almost the same word, just slightly different in the nikud. Yishlach mi marom yikacheni. That God will send out his aid from above and take me. Yamsheni mimayim rabim. He will draw me from great waters. So David HaMelech uses the very word to be Yamsheni. He will draw me. And Yimusheni is very similar. That he will feel me. He will touch me. So I believe that there's some grammatical connection between to be Moshe and to be Moshesh, or to. By the way, what is the word for a fabric that is extremely delicate to the touch? Meshi. Why is it called meshi? What does meshi mean? Anyone know? Silk. Meshi is silk in Hebrew. And why is that? Because it's got a very delicate feel. When you feel silk, it has a certain kind of very delicate, soft feel to it. That's the beauty of the Hebrew language, is that the words themselves describe the object, right? So silk is meshi because it describes the feel that you get from when you touch the fabric. And that's in a pasuk in Yechezkel. So what am I trying to point out from here? I don't know if it's correct or not, but this is my thought. The reason why Moshe is a redeemer is because we have to remember that the greatest sense of servitude that the Jewish people were experiencing was that lack of sensation, the lack of feel, the lack of being in touch with their senses. And what I mean by that is that we know that at some point when Moshe comes to the Jewish people, Paro succeeded in dehumanizing Klal Yisrael. That was his goal, just like that was Hitler's goal, Yamach Shemo, when he put the Jews in camps and he shaved their hair and he stripped them of their clothes and he made them all look the same. It was to dehumanize, take away that sense of humanity and the ability to feel as a human being. Paro did the same thing, and that's why when Moshe offered them a glimmer of hope that he was coming to redeem them, the Torah says in next week's Parsha, V'lo shamu el Moshe mikotze ruach u'me'avodah kasha. They couldn't even hear Moshe. All sensory perception of redemption was lost. It was like it fell on deaf ears. Moshe could not communicate with them because they had so far removed themselves from the human experience of feeling anything from within. They were dead inside, even though they were still working, but they felt dead inside. And the idea of a baby Moshe floating in the Nile, you can reach a point in life where you feel everything is great because you feel like, now think about baby Moshe. His mother puts him in a basket, rocking gently to and fro. According to our tradition, the day that Moshe was placed in the basket was the 6th of Sivan. It's the beginning of June. There's a gentle breeze blowing down the Nile River, and beginning of summer, or the end of spring. It must feel great floating in a basket. What's the problem? Is that you're not aware that you're in danger because you don't have the sensory ability to feel anything that's around you because you're lying on your back looking up at the sky and you're a baby, and you don't realize that if this thing keeps floating downstream, you're going to be lost forever. That is a metaphor for the state that the Jewish people were in. They may have been lulled into a sense of feeling nothing. This is life. This is where we are. This is our future. This is our past. And this is who we are. We're slaves. And this is what we're going to be for the rest of time. We'll be slaves. And this will be our lives. This will be our work. A Moshe is someone who not only draws out, but also restores feeling. That's what a Moshe is. It restores that sense of feeling humanity once again. And that's the sensitivity that a Moshe, a messianic figure like Moshe, has to have, which is not only to functionally be able to unify the Jewish people and restore that sense of nationhood and be able to physically and spiritually bring us out of diaspora, but also to restore that sense of feeling what it is to be a Jew once again, of feeling that exalted humanity of being the chosen people. That's why I think there's more to the idea of being a Moshe, not just a Moshiach or a Goel, but also being a Moshe having to do with Ulai Musheni. This is a person who restores the ability to feel, to touch, and to realize who I am, and that I do have a meaning, and I do have a sense of purpose. One of the great, they say about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that one of his great abilities was to be able not to just bless people, but to make them feel that they were important, and they had that sense of purpose, which is why he was so effective. And the idea of a messianic figure, indeed, is someone who can instill others with that feeling of importance. Just, I guess, going back to what we said before, Rebbe's teaching is not, don't think that you're garnished, but rather, there's an ayin roa, ozen shomas, v'chol ma'asecha ba'sefer nichtavim, because of who you are, because you're so important, because you are destined for greatness. That's what a Moshe is able to do, to draw us from the loneliness of the water, false sense of tranquility, and this is the way life is, and bring us back to the reality of who we are as a people. Okay? Have a great day, everybody. See you, Mirz Hashem. Hopefully it'll be a little warmer next week, I hope. Stay warm.